Hey everyone, this is Anirban here. Welcome you again to the another show of the email show. Today I have Arsalan Raza. He is originally from Pakistan, but currently he is in Vancouver. He is a technical marketer and he's been doing lifecycle marketing for 7 years. Worked with 10 plus clients across USA, Canada, UAE, UK, and Asia. Worked across e-commerce, fintech, travel, restaurants, fitness, and many more. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Anirban. It's a pleasure.
Awesome. So, can you please briefly introduce yourself and share what led you in email marketing?
Yeah, for sure. Firstly, like you mentioned all the main points, but I'll briefly talk about my journey. Like there's no, as you already know, there's no formal education where you learn email marketing or life cycle, right? So right after graduation, I started working for a bank in product management side. Um, Worked there for about 3 to 6 months, I think. Didn't like it, and my education was in marketing and data. Like randomly, I came across a position which was I read through the job description. It's talking about like customer segmentation and mapping customer journeys and like analyzing data. So I was like, okay, let's go for it. The position was called CRM analyst, and that was my first entry point to lifecycle marketing, I would say. And obviously, it's been 7 years, so the role of a lifecycle marketer starting off from a very hands-on executive position where hands-on you are testing emails and you're fixing email bugs and uh, creating push notifications, all of that stuff. So that's how I sort of started, and then sort of grew into a role where I call myself a technical marketer. And that's because I've led a lot of integration related projects when it comes to event debugging or how to set up triggered journeys, how to improve personalization. So through these 7 years, I've done a lot of these projects. And also, like as a lifecycle marketer, you wear a lot of different hats, right? So you have to be good enough at copywriting, you have to have a design element in your brain as well, and then you have to have a knack of empathizing with the customer so that you can draw the customer journey. So that's how I sort of got into lifecycle marketing. My first job was at an e-commerce company, Alibaba-based e-commerce company in Southeast Asia, and since then, as you mentioned, I've worked across different industries and different functions as well of lifecycle.
As you have mentioned that you have worked in travel segment as well. Travel segment is one of the least talked segment in email marketing. So, how was your experience there?
Yeah, I think it was weird. So a lot of I don't know about a lot of tech companies, but I worked for two travel companies, and in both of them, I noticed a similar trend. There was a lot of focus on paid marketing and customer acquisition. Like we need to run ads and ROI and CPI and CPO, all of that stuff. And they're collecting all these emails, then they have all these customers, and there's no retargeting happening. There is no life cycle setup. So that was sort of how I went into both the companies. And so I had to set everything from scratch. So it was a very interesting experience because the behavior for those customers is a bit different, right? You don't travel every other week, but you probably travel maybe X months later or X years later, like whatever the frequency for your industry is. So that was one very interesting thing that I noticed. So it was fun setting up, understanding first of all how those customers sort of behave. So before even I set up the journeys, I talked a lot with the data folks, understanding what's the repurchase cycle and from point A to point B, how like what the frequent routes is, etc. So yeah, after analyzing the data, I sort of started creating those journeys and stuff. And again, the triggered journeys and the customer flows, they really depend on the industry. So for travel, again, having your data sort of talk to you about what the strategy should be. That was very interesting, definitely. But yeah, it's one industry. I think email marketing hasn't really. It's not as great as I'd say. Even if you receive emails from Expedia and all, that they're obviously great, but it's too much happening.
They totally rely on paid marketing and they are yet to tap into email marketing. They don't believe that email marketing can work in travel segment.
It's crazy. Yeah.
What's one mistake you made early on in your email marketing career and how did you overcome it?
I think all life cycle marketers sort of make a couple of common mistakes. Especially my first big mistake, I would say, was I sent a push notification. So our company operated in 5 countries, right? So Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Myanmar. And so I accidentally sent a push notification which was supposed to be for the Pakistan audience, but it went to Pakistan and Bangladesh. And this was because how our push notifications were configured. I wasn't as tech aware at that time. It was obviously my, I think, first 3 months of my life cycle career. So I didn't really test the push notification. I expected it to only go to one audience, and it went to like two audiences. The core issue basically was I wasn't aware how important QA is and testing is. Like just previewing your assets within your tool, it's not sufficient. You need to test for an iOS, Android, and all platforms that you sort of are targeting. I think that's one very common mistake people do. And since then, obviously, I've learned, and now wherever I work, having a solid structured QA process, I think is very important. So like having QA checklist where it's make the QA checklist, I would say sleep deprived, so that even if someone, whoever is QAing it, even if it's you or someone else from your team, it should be so straightforward that they know exactly what to look for. Hence, you sort of reduce the chances of errors that way.
What trends are you most excited about in email marketing right now?
I think one trend that I'm really excited about is obviously like AI is everywhere, but there's this concept of agentic AI, which is getting a lot of traction now in Lifecycle. It's still, I think it's in a very early stage. So if you search for agentic AI or a couple of companies that are offering this, I'll explain the concept, but a couple of companies offering this is Offer Touch or High Touch, Offer Fit, High Touch. The idea basically is that you know how painful it is to run A, B, C tests, right? So if you have a journey of like, let's say 6 or 8 emails within one canvas or within one flow, and you want to test different copy variations or different images or different subject lines, running that test is not as easy. Like it's very easy to sort of exponentially increase the size of your journey or your canvas. And so what these tools are helping do is personalization at scale. So within, if you set up one email, that one email through that tool, you can test hundreds of variations of subject lines, images, and like whatever you want to test basically, but within one email. That's kind of the idea at core, and I think that solves a lot of pain problems for us, not just saving our time and effort, but also personalization is important, like everyone knows, because number one, email inboxes are getting cluttered, right? So personalization is key, and they are helping us do that. So I'm kind of exploring that right now, and we'll probably get that for our team as well in the near future.
As you know that whenever we are doing email marketing, the first step is to build an email list, right?
Mhm.
So what's your biggest challenge when building an email list and how do you tackle it?
I think so. When I think about building email lists, so there obviously it's very industry dependent. So if it's a proper company, you probably already have an email list. But if it's like an agency or a newsletter or a startup and you're trying to build an email list, I think number one thing is creating good content, which
Hmm.
is not easy. So organically trying to grow your email list requires you to provide value to your customers or your readers. And obviously there are tons of channels. So depending on which audience you're trying to talk to, it could be TikTok, could be Twitter, it could be LinkedIn. But creating content that actually helps solve a problem for your reader is what will get you a good, loyal email subscriber, let's say, which you could potentially monetize in future as well. But I think that's the most difficult part. It's theoretically it's easy, just post content every day, but providing valuable content every day, it's not easy. So I think that's the biggest challenge and the opportunity as well if you're trying to grow an email list, in my opinion.
Mostly nowadays people run paid ads and offer some low ticket offers in order to grow their email
Yeah,
list, because when you offer some low ticket offers you can check the seriousness of the people who are joining. Rather, people just take the freebie and they run away.
100%. You agree? I agree. Creating a very solid lead magnet and then sort of running ads, maybe if you have a low cost per subscriber, that is one good strategy. But like in my opinion, your first, let's say 0 to 1,000 subscribers, you should probably look to get that organically. And then once you have your first 1,000 subscribers, then to scale up, run ads and see what kind of ads sort of work for your audience.
So as you know that in 2025 it's a year of newsletter. People are mostly focusing on newsletter businesses or integrating newsletter in their business. Earlier it was just a side hustle, or maybe people used to take some time out of the schedule and they used to write. But right now it's actually a business and people are inclining more and more to newsletter. What's your take on newsletter business?
Actually really like the newsletter business. I also have a newsletter called Lifecycle Mechanics. I'll just briefly talk about how I think the industry is sort of shaping. Newsletter is not new. Since 2018, there have been newsletters, Morning Brew, The Hustle, like there's so many of them, right? And so what now becomes important is picking up a nice niche. So I think getting into hyper niches is the way to go. If you have one skill that you think is valuable, just get into the niche. It could be pets, it could be travel, it could be like whatever you're good at. It could just be a hobby, and they just get super niche into it. And then the thing is, like, social media is like, people say that social media is the channel where you can grow an audience and community, which is partly true. But even if you have 1,000 subscribers, or let's say 1,000 followers on Instagram, and you post a video or a picture, those 1,000 people won't see your post, right? Maybe 15, 20% might see the post. Even 50% might see the post. But that's not how, like, Instagram and Facebook's algorithms sort of work. And hence, building a community and building your own audience becomes very important, even if it's like a very small audience, even if it's like 1,000 people who are listening to you every month or every week. I think it's worth it to invest time in building that audience and building that community. And obviously, there's several reasons to it, right? You also have a newsletter business, so you know how important it is. And from a monetary and a monetization point of view as well, obviously, there are tons of ways you can sort of monetize that, which is not as easy to do on, let's say, social platforms. If you have 1,000 followers on Instagram, it's not easy to sort of monetize that. While if you have, let's say, 1,000, 5,000 followers on your email list, you can probably like sell them some digital product or upsell them or affiliate income, like 10,000 things you can do. That's my take. Like, I think it's a good business model, and it might not be the thing that makes you, let's say, if becoming financially independent is the goal, that might not make you that. It could be top of funnel into a big ticket item you're selling to them, right? So, for example, if you're running a travel newsletter could engage your audience, but at the end, you might be selling them coaching or courses or itineraries or whatever. That's basically where you might make money off. Yeah.
What are your top three tips for increasing email open rates?
Whew. Increasing open rates. This is a good question, and there are like tons of things you can think of and you can do. But I think before even starting to optimize open rates, just understand your audience first. Like, understand what they do, what their pain points are. And once you have built some context on open rates, then build some context about your audience. Then I think the core thing is A/B testing. Like, there is no right answer to what a right subject line is. I always say that write for one person, try to write to, like, you're talking to one person, but you have to sort of A/B test. Something could work for your audience and it could not work for another audience. So even within segments, hyper segmentation, and then A/B testing is important. I don't have one or two answers for how to increase open rates, to be very honest, but I can talk to you like about when you're trying to optimize your open rate, there are 3 or 4 things you can control. Number one, you can control when the email is being sent to the user. So timing of the message, morning, early morning, late night, evening, whatever. That's one thing you control. The other thing you control is obviously the subject line. And another thing that you control is the from name. So is it coming from Facebook, or is it coming from Arsalan from Facebook, for example, or is it coming from marketing from Facebook? Doesn't We don't know what will work. So I think these three are the 3 top variables you can A/B test and you have control over. So I would just say just play along with them and see what resonates better with your audience.
True that. So, how do you approach segmentation and personalization in your email campaigns?
Um, I generally try to follow this RFM approach. So RFM as in recency, frequency, and monetary. These would be the 3 core buckets I would try to segment users on. So how recency would include variables like how recently were they acquired, how recently did they engage with the product, like how recently did they open your app or website, how recently did they click your email. So sort of segment your users based on 0 to 15 days, let's say, or 15 to 30 days, or for 15 to whatever, 30 to 45 or 60 days. That's sort of one layer of segmentation I would think about. And then number two, F is frequency. So how frequently are they opening it? Are they a loyal customer? Are they coming to your app every other day, every other week? what's their engagement level. So that would be the second one, and then third one is obviously on the terms of monetary level. Are they, how much are they paying? What is their LTV if you have that data? So this would be like very top level how I would start thinking about segmentation. And then obviously depends on what you're selling them, right? If it's like a first purchase campaign, and if you want to segment users, that would be, you would segment them differently than if it's a loyal customer base and if you want to upsell them something and they've already purchased something from you. So there you might focus on high value customers, get access to your products first, and low value customer, whatever. But you get the idea. RFM is generally how I would think about it.
So as you know, the heart of email marketing is email copywriting, right? So the better we write the copy, the better we sell. So how can we master the art of email copywriting?
Yeah, that's a good question. And that's something I like, it's not easy to crack, and people who are good at it are really good at it. But I've been trying to practice and get better at it. But it all starts from the same thing, understanding your customers. What are their pain points? Why did they subscribe? Like why are they here? Right? That's number one for me. Once I understand that, then I'll start thinking about what to write. So first understand your audience. Then I try to write for, again, one person. Talk to the customer as in they are a customer, and not as in you are a corporation talking to a million customers, so that they feel more relatable, they feel more personalized. That's one thing. And then I think having a hook in your first line, like I now think that's really important. You have to have a hook where there is enough incentive for them to sort of read the next bit of your email newsletter. So it could start off from like something very relevant to them, something very engaging or emotional. Maybe like right directly talks about the problem they want you to solve. And the next thing, generally speaking, would be very clear and simple, and don't try to be clever. Don't use jargons. Don't throw in like technical words if that's not what your audience is. If you're talking to a technical audience, okay, that makes sense. You can throw technical words to them. But if your audience is non-technical, then don't throw jargons on them. That would be one thing. And like one of the most important things again is copy A/B testing, right? A few things I try to A/B test on, especially the copy. Like if you search, there are like several psychological biases you would find. So the basic ones are FOMO, but there's curiosity effect. There is literally several psychological biases. I try to test those biases with my audience and see which ones work more. And obviously depends on the customer life cycle as well, but that's something I would do. It's again, at the end, it's test, analyze, and sort of refine. Yeah.
So what are the tools or softwares do you use for email marketing?
I've sort of worked on, when it comes to marketing automation platforms, obviously I've used Braze, Salesforce Marketing Cloud, Klaviyo, Customer IO, iTribble. So all of these, HubSpot, all of these are marketing automation tools which would help solve most of your problem. And with that, there are a few other problems that you would need more tools for. So for example, Stripo is one tool we use for email building. It's very easy drag and drop builder, which you can directly plug your template in from Stripe to, let's say, Braze or Marketing Cloud. Because if you've used Braze or Marketing Cloud's template builder, it's not as nice. So these two tools, and then obviously a dashboarding tool. If let's say, again, Braze and Marketing Cloud, I'm using those examples because I use them pretty often. Their reporting and dashboarding isn't that nice. So having a data pipeline to sort of pull data from your tool and build a dashboard, could be Looker, could be Google Analytics, could be Sigma, Sisense, whatever. So I think these three would be the top three tools I use most often. And obviously now, like, AI has increased its usage, so any AI tool honestly would work for which could help you copyright and stuff.
For newsletter purpose or for email marketing purpose, I have used some tools like Beehive,
Yeah.
Kit, Sendfox. Also for e-commerce, you can use Klaviyo,
Yeah.
Omnisend.
Yeah, Klaviyo is good for e-commerce. Yeah, Beehive, obviously, if you're having a newsletter business, Beehive or Substack, those are your top ones, or ConvertKit as well. And then if it's like SMS, there obviously Infobib, SendGrid, Twilio that you can use for specifically those purposes. So
Active Camp.
yeah, Active Campaign. There are like tons of tools out there.
So can you please share a case study or example of an email marketing campaign that delivered an unexpected result?
Mm, Unexpected results, like lots of them. Honestly, whenever I start testing with a hypothesis, I'm like, this will work, and it doesn't. But so, and again, one example would be I started working for this fintech company, and then I was managing their onboarding. So after a customer sort of signs up, all the my job is to make them first purchase, let's say. And so the emails I sort of created were very in depth, all the features that we have and what benefits the users can get. And it was an email sequence of 10-ish emails. It was a long sequence which lasted like 1.5 or 2 months. Very content heavy, very creative heavy as well. And I was very confident that this is exactly what the customer needs. But it didn't work. It didn't work. I mean, it didn't really move the needle compared to the control group, um, or the holdout group. And my analysis was maybe there's too much happening in the email. Maybe there are too many CTAs in the email. Maybe there are too many color contrast in the email. So there were like 5, 6 hypotheses I drove on why it did not work. But that's the idea, right? You A/B test and you understand why things are not working, and you then tweak something else in your next variation and hope it works out.
Hmm. So where do you see the future of email marketing?
I think, as I mentioned, social media is very unpredictable. Again, your followers might see a post, might not. Tomorrow, Google could or Facebook could change their algorithm, and you don't have control over that. What you have control over is your email list. Like, you have their emails, they have willingly opted into hearing from you, and they like you're a thought leader there, right? So I think that's one thing when it comes to email marketing, why it's important, and it's obviously a cheaper channel than the rest of them as well. So I forgot the stat, but obviously a very big chunk of people now have emails. Obviously, there's no denying that, and so it becomes a no-brainer to focus on your email list and your email audience and your email hygiene and talking to them. It's basically a no-brainer. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. So my last question for newcomers in email marketing, what's one piece of advice you would give them to?
This would be, let me think about this one. I would say, like, so when people start thinking about joining lifecycle marketing as a career, there are obviously a few sort of fields or branches or approaches you can take. One is, you're a typical generic lifecycle marketer, or more who is more on the marketing side and less technical. So you're more into copywriting and design and all. And then you can also take the more technical route. My personal suggestion for newcomers is to get more technical, get some hands-on experience. Like, even if you don't know coding, if you don't have technical experience, don't be afraid of it. It's not rocket science, and the new tools, the interfaces they allow are very, very user-centric. Just go in the tool, just get a demo of a tool. Even if you don't have a job in lifecycle marketing, go find Salesforce Marketing Cloud has courses online, Praise, and all tools would provide you some sort of dummy account where you can just go and hands-on practice and just create an email template for yourself. You could just start from MailChimp, which is the most basic one. Get your hands dirty, get into the weeds, and get some hands-on experience. And then you'll realize, if even if you maybe you just don't like it, and if you like it, you'll get into the weeds, you'll get more in-depth understanding of what variables you can actually control as a lifecycle marketer, which would help you obviously optimize your campaigns and all in future. That would be my advice for like beginners into the field. Just get your hands dirty.
Yeah, awesome. So we are done with the questions and all. But right now, if you have anything to promote or anything to offer to the subscribers, I mean, sorry, if you have anything to offer to the viewers, if you are building something, building any course, or if you can help them anyway, please share it with us.
Yeah, for sure. I have this lifecycle marketing newsletter. It's basic. The goal of the newsletter is to make you a more technical lifecycle marketer. So you could take any approach, right? But if you're a new beginner and if you want to get into technical lifecycle marketing, or even if you're an experienced lifecycle marketer, but you've spent more time on the campaign side and on the copy side, and you want to get more understanding about how technically stuff work and how you can set up triggered campaigns, how eventing works, how to diagnose issues, how to sort of personalize using liquid code or AMP script code, all of that stuff. It's a weekly newsletter, and it's like 5 to 7 minutes per issue. So yeah, I'll put the link. I'll share the link with you, and if you can put in the description.
Yeah,
But
in the
apart from
description.
that, yeah, apart
Yeah.
from that, just follow me on LinkedIn, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to help.
All right, awesome. So just send me the links over DM and I will put it in the description. And if you have anything else to share as well, I can do the same. So thanks for coming today. It was really amazing, and whoever is listening to this podcast, they will get a brief idea. I mean, overall idea about email marketing and the how life cycle marketing works, and how they can enter into this market or how they can serve clients. Overall, it was really amazing. Thanks for coming today. Thanks for your precious time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, man. And take care. Thanks for having me.